All right, today we are going to talk about factoring again. I'm going to start with a problem from your homework just to review the concept. So I've got n squared minus 8n plus 12. Well, remember when we're factoring, the first thing I do is look for a GCF or a greatest common factor. There isn't one here, so I'm going to go ahead and set up my two parentheses. And I'm thinking through what are some factors of n squared, because those will go in the first two slots. So n squared, well, that's just going to be n and n. And for the second slots in my parentheses, I'm thinking through factors of 12. So I maybe have 2 and 6. I maybe have 3 and 4. I maybe have 12 and 1. Again, you're kind of thinking through what would work best with that middle, and then we're going to try them out. But first of all, I'm looking at that middle, and that middle is actually -8. So with that in mind, because my last number is positive, I know both my factors are the same sign. So usually we think positive and positive, but here, since my middle number is negative, I'm going to say that both my numbers are negative. So I've got -2, -6, -3, -4, -12, -1. So I've got n minus, and let's go ahead and jump in and pick some. So let's just pick the first pair, n minus 2 and n minus 6. So remember, I have to FOIL to check. So I've got n times n, that will give me n squared. I've got n times -6, that would give me -6n. I then take my second number and multiply it through the second parentheses, so -2 times n would give me -2n, and -2 times -6 will give me +12. So I got what I'm looking for on the start and the beginning, and if I combine my like terms, I see that I actually got 8n in the middle. Yesterday that didn't happen a lot where we got it on the first try, and I would go ahead and trial and error the rest of the answers, but it worked out this time. So my two factors are n minus 2 and n minus 6. Today we're going to move on to a little bit of a more complicated, and by complicated I just mean there's more numbers involved. So let's start with 3m squared plus 26m plus 35. And I look at this first and I'm thinking, maybe is there a GCF? I could pull out the number in front, and then I could have maybe a simpler equation to work with, but there's not. So instead, I'm going to have to think through what are some factors of 3m squared that are going to go in the first spot in my parentheses I draw, and then what are some factors of 35 that'll go in the second slot. Well, 3m squared is really nice because you really just have one option. You've got 3m times 1m, because 3 only has the factors 3 and 1, and m squared's got m and m. So with that in mind, I've got those as my only option, so I'm going to go ahead and plug those in. And you could write 1m here. I'm just going to write m. And then I need to think through factors of 35. And 35 is not that bad either, because I have, well, I know it's divisible by 5, but I'm not sure the other number. So maybe I'm thinking, I'll take in my calculator 35 divided by 5, and it actually gives me 7. And that's really the only pair besides 35 and 1. So I'm just going to try out these numbers, see if it works out nicely. If it does, maybe it works out on the first try. If not, I'll trial and error some stuff. So I have 3m plus 7 times m plus 5. So I'll FOIL, I'll get 3m times the second parentheses, so 3m times m will give me 3m squared. 3m times 5 will give me 15m. I move on to the second piece in the first parentheses times the second parentheses, so 7 times m will give me 7m plus 35. Again, my ending and my starting piece are what I expected. Just check in the middle. So I've got 35m squared plus, turns out to be 22m plus 35. Not what I'm looking for. So I'm gonna have to trial and error maybe the other factor, or because there's a number in front of m, or usually it's an x, switching my factors will give me something different in the middle. When I look up here, if I had switched my factors, like if I had put n minus 6 times n minus 2, it wouldn't have changed anything because you have just n and n. But when you have two different numbers right here, switching these factors changes stuff. So I'll write it instead as 3m plus 5 times m plus 7, and let's see if I get my middle term I'm looking for, or I'll move on to 35 times 1 for the factors here. So I've got 3 times m, that'll be 3m squared, plus 3m times 7, or 21m, plus 5 times m, which will be 5m, plus 5 times 7, which is 35. I add my middle term, and hey look, I get 26. It works out this way. Those are my factors. So for my answer, I would put 3m plus 5 times m plus 7. So like I said, when there's a number in front here, switching these two numbers right here can affect what you get different in the middle. Because look, I had 15m plus 7, and then I had 21m plus 5. So that's another option when I've got a number in front here, is switch these factors. That could give me another way to get something different in the middle. So let's try one more problem before you start your homework. So for problem 3, I have got 4x squared minus 13x plus 10. So first we're going to think through what are some factors of 4x squared. Well, for 4x squared, I could have either, well, factors of 4, we usually think of 2 and 2. And factors of x would be x and x. Hey, look, I got the same thing. Kind of weird, but let's think through some other ones, because we don't just want to have one option if that doesn't work out. So I could also have, well, factors of 4 are 2 and 2. Or I could have 4x and x, because 4 times 1. I don't know about you. I'm thinking we start by trying 2x and 2x, because while there is a number in front of the x here, which makes it a little more complicated like the one we just did, it's the same number. So I think it'll work out nicely, kind of like that first one did. So let's try that. I've got 2x and 2x. And then let's think through some factors of 10. So factors of 10, I maybe have 2 and 5, or maybe I've got 10 and 1. But notice my middle term is negative. Think for a second. If my last term was positive and my middle term was negative, what does that mean about my two factors of my last term? So if you remember what we talked about yesterday, when my last term was positive, the signs are the same. So I either have positive 2 and positive 5, or positive 10 and positive 1. Or I could have negative 2 times negative 5, because that would also give me a positive 10. I'm going to go with that it's negative and negative. The reason I'm saying that is this negative term in the middle. So let's go ahead and try out 2x minus 2. You know what? I'm going to place it the other way. So I've got 2x minus 5 times 2x minus 2. So I'm going to FOIL to check. Of course, I should get 4x squared from 2x times 2x. Then I would get minus 4x from 2x times 2 minus 10x from 5 times 2x. And I would get positive 10. I got really close. I got minus 14x. Which is pretty upsetting. And I know at the beginning of this, I was like, ooh, let me try to switch this and see if that will change something. But now thinking through it, if these two numbers are the same, switching these two second factors won't change what's in the middle here. Because I could write 2 here and 5 here, but I would have just gotten 10x and then minus 4x. So because these two numbers are the same, I may try right now moving on to the other factors of 10. And maybe that'll work out. So I've got 2x minus 10 and 2x minus 1. And I'll FOIL to check. So I've got 2x times 2x, 4x squared, minus 2x from 2x times 1, minus 20x, plus 10. Again, I don't get what I'm looking for in the middle. We talked through like switching these numbers might not change anything because this number is the same as this one in front. So I've got 2x and 2x instead of something like up here when I had 3m and m, and changing it, the order of the second numbers flipped what was in the middle, or changed what was in the middle. So with that in mind, I guess I could try going back to changing the factors of 4x squared into 4x and x. So let's try 4x minus 5 times 4x. Oh, not 4x. It would be 4x minus 5 times x minus 2. So from 4x times x, I'm FOILing to check. I've got 4x squared minus 8x from 4x times negative 2. Negative 5 times x would give me minus 5x and plus 10. Hey, looks like I end up with what I'm looking for. 4x squared minus 13x plus 10. So if I didn't end up with what I was looking for here, I could switch this minus 2 and this minus 5, and that would give me something different in the middle. So if maybe I was looking for, if I had been looking for minus 20, no, never mind. If I had switched it, it would give me something different in the middle altogether, okay? So takeaways today. If I have a number in front and the numbers are different, switching these two factors will affect what's in the middle. If I have the same number, like here, switching these two numbers themselves won't change anything, but switching to different factors does, okay?